Welcome to InnerGLOW, the podcast that helps you to ditch anxiety, judgment, stress, and self-doubt, and instead embody ease, confidence, flow, abundance, and self-love. I'm your host, Bhavna Meg, mindset and energy coach, and founder of Stepping Into You. I work with individuals just like you on emotional, mental, and energetic levels to help you to fall in love with yourself and glow from the inside out. This is episode 19, Wearing Your Emotions on Your Sleeve. Today we're going to be talking about what it means to, really wear your heart on your sleeve and wearing your emotions on your sleeve, the experiencing of your emotions in a way that's not burying them. I'll be sharing with you some client story examples. And as always, listen all the way to the end for a wonderful tip on how you can easily experience your emotions without getting stuck in them so that you can continue to wear your emotions on your sleeve. When we hear somebody say, oh, that person wears their heart on their sleeve, the things that come to mind are that that person must be very loving and caring and generous. Now I've expanded that out a little bit to incorporate all of the emotions. So why is it that we just wear our heart on our sleeve and be that loving, kind, generous person? Why not all of the other emotions too? Why can't we express those and be giving of those in the same way? Why is it that we're not allowed to wear the other emotions on our sleeve? Or maybe we are, it's just not an expression that you often hear or ever hear. For one to be wearing their heart on their sleeve, they may be doing good deeds. They may be doing things like voluntary work or charity work. They may offer to support their family and their neighbors more than somebody else. They may be positively minded or just incredibly generous with what it is that they have to offer and serve with. But what about somebody who wears their sadness on their sleeve? What about somebody who wears their grief on their sleeve? What about somebody who wears their anger on their sleeve? What about somebody who wears their peace on their sleeve? All of these emotions and the rest of them all have the right to be felt and the right to be expressed in healthy ways. Now, I've grown up in a family that is not very good at communicating their emotions in a healthy way and would often have outbursts, if not just burying, particularly with harder emotions. So frustration, anger, pissed off, or in any sort of shape or form of challenging somebody else's thoughts or opinions, not being able to do that in a healthy way. I mean, it wasn't even actually until my mum's 60th birthday when I had a call with her from a trip that I was on in the States. I called her to wish her happy birthday. And it was the first time that we'd both said to each other, I love you. And when I hung up the phone, I just started crying because it's not something that we've verbally expressed. I know that my mum loves me, but sometimes the verbal expression of it, sometimes what we feel and believe should be the acting out of that love or that anger or that joy, the pain, the value, the worth is not always what we get. So, as I said, I come from a very well-versed family of not wearing emotions on their sleeve or just wearing particular ones. Growing up in that environment, I've certainly recognized how much more expressive I am in my emotions verbally and able to communicate them much more so in a much more healthy way. But what about when we are in the experience of them? So we can see things when somebody's wearing their heart on their sleeve. We might witness them, as I already said, putting themselves out there in some shape or fashion to offer their emotional, mental, physical service. And that's really beautiful. But what about if that same person or if somebody else is experiencing pain of some form? What about if they're experiencing one of the many ranges of what is stress? How do we allow and create space for those emotions to be worn on our sleeve so that we can really process them and allow them to be let go? To be able to return that energy of anxiety, of overwhelm, of judgment, of fear, of hate, of loathing or frustration, whatever it might be, how can we create space to allow those emotions to be expressed in a way that is healthy, not in the eyes of the society, but healthy for the individual who needs to experience them? And I think this is what's really tricky. So, on top of growing up in a family that was not always very good at communicating emotions, I also grew up in England, and there's the long history of the stiff upper lip. The belief systems of girls are meant to be seen, not heard. Big boys don't cry. And these are all things that really suppress our ability to experience all ranges of emotions. And when we don't allow ourselves to experience all ranges of emotions, to release them, we begin to store those in our physical body. And when we start to store them in our physical body, we start to create dis-ease. In the last 7 days, I've met or had conversations with people that have raised the word and the emotion of guilt a few times. And it wasn't until it happened yesterday that I actually realized that there might be some message in there for me. As you all know, as without, so within, which means that the external environment is a reflection of our inner being. Using those few conversations where guilt has popped up as a little bit of feedback. And I ask myself the question, what part of me is experiencing or expressing guilt? What part of me is needing to feel guilt at the moment? And pondering on that. Now, as you know, it's not about analyzing any aspect of yourself. It's asking the question out loud and allowing the information to come, because your subconscious mind, your higher self, your higher power will share it with you if you are curious and open enough to hear it. The information that came through for me was actually stemming from holding guilt around somebody else's experience of anxiety and how much anxiety they were actually experiencing, and how I was able to be in a state of so much peace in contrast, and feeling guilty for that experience, which is really lame saying it out loud, that I feel guilty for my own experience of life because somebody else is having a very different and contrasting one. But this is actually something that I've done a number of times. I've felt guilty about sharing what I've been up to for the week, because sometimes I'm like just having a really nice, relaxing week and I haven't done what is seen as traditionally working very much at all. I feel guilty about that, whilst I thought I'd come to terms with the guilt of my relaxing, I'm chilling, I live in an apartment, which I absolutely love, which I've manifested. I worked on, this is who I am, and this is what I've created for myself through the choices that I've made, through the healing that I've done, and through the growth that I keep seeking. It was really interesting to notice that I was still experiencing guilt around other people's experience of life and the stress that they are holding within their own mind body. Before we continue with the next part of the show, if what I've shared with you today is resonating with you, leave a review. It goes a long way to help share the love with others who are going through the same things and would benefit from the tips and tools to turn on their inner glow. Another way to share the love is by making a donation at patreon.com/stepping into you to share your love with me and with others. It's actually in this awareness, which is unfolding as I'm speaking now, there is very much around the, why do I need to experience guilt for somebody else's experience of life when I trust and know that they are in the moment of their life that is exactly where they needed to be. So what part of me needs to hold guilt around that? Being able to express this out loud live and recording is very interesting. I feel a little bit of heaviness and tightness in my chest, in my heart space. And there's a little bit of tearing happening right now. It's this expression that we shy away from. We don't wear it on our sleeves. And in doing so, we buried our opportunity to learn about ourselves, learn about the things that we can let go of. We don't need to hold all of that shit within us. We really don't. There's so much more fun to be had in this world, to be holding on to any of the heaviness. Feel it and free it. This is one of my biggest mantras. So I will continue to feel it and free it once I finish recording this episode and allow that to process out. Now, this episode has gone in a slightly different direction to what I had planned. I was hoping to share some client stories with you just to give you a bit of an idea of how we can continue to express and wear our emotions on our sleeves. But it's been an incredibly healing one for me to be able to do that, walking through of allowing myself to wear my emotions on my sleeve. And this is exactly the kind of process that you can use to just walk through and explore with so much open curiosity of what is going on for you, of why you're experiencing a particular emotion. And actually, one of the tips that I've given a client recently is to remove why when exploring and doing self-reflection, because it can have a bit of a heaviness around it. And play this out for yourself. For me, why, which is a question that I've asked a lot in my life, it can have a more direct, accusatory tone to it. That's possibly some of my own attachments to the word, but why did you do that is something that we would hear from our parents or from our teachers when we were being told off. So it is a great question. It's a great probing question. But in this instance, when we're being soft and gentle with ourselves, asking the questions, what part of me is experiencing this? What part of me needs to experience this? What part of me is choosing this experience? It really opens up the exploration and creates so much softness and grace around that inquiry. This gentleness is so important for our inner child to just make a little peep. It might be a very, very quiet one and you may not hear it. But simply asking the question without any analysis, without engaging the mind, is so important. And coming back to the episode name, wearing your emotions on your sleeve, a beautiful exploration question is, what's stopping you from wearing all of the variety of emotions on your sleeve? And this can open a door. It may open a floodgate, but be open and curious again and ask yourself the question, like, what's stopping me from wearing my emotions on my sleeve? And these are things that we can start to process and create expansion within ourselves. That's all from this slightly more random episode today. Join me next week where I'll be talking to Deb from Brimming With in episode 20, Mixing It Up. Thanks for joining me today, and be sure to subscribe at steppingintoyou.com/innerglow so you don't miss any glowing possibilities. And if you'd love to support InnerGLOW, you can make a donation at patreon.com/innerglow. Sending you love, hugs, and magic.